Hi, it's Norm from Ninja Mighty Crochet. Today I have for us to do this beginner-friendly rectangle shape shawl. It's just a 2-row repeat. It is double crochet V-stitches and double crochet. Really simple to do, real easy to do, and I think it came out really super nice. I call this my shawl for Lil because the lady who's going to be getting this lovely piece is named Lil. So I made this using Premier Puzzle yarn. You don't have to use Premier Puzzle yarn, but you can if you want to. It's 100% acrylic yarn. It is a bulky 5. It's one of my favorite yarns. It's 328 yards or 30 meters, 7 ounces, 200 grams. You will need 2 balls of this. So yardage wise, we're talking 656 yards. I used pretty much all of it. I have this right here left. Hook size, I used a K 6.5 millimeter hook. So you'll need one of those. You'll want a pair of scissors, a yarn needle to weave in your ends. You'll want a tape measurer because we're going to measure the width of your shawl. And you'll need probably 2 stitch markers. Particularly if you're new to crochet, you're definitely going to want at least 2 stitch markers. If you're a seasoned crocheter, you probably won't need the stitch markers, but it's good to have them anyway. So once you have all your supplies, let's get started. For today's tutorial, I'm going to be making a sample of the shawl since I've already completed my full shawl, but this is super easy to customize. The stitch multiple is 3 plus 1, and basically what that means is you just keep chaining sets of 3. So you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, till you get to the length that you want your shawl to be. My shawl was 60 inches in length and 20 inches wide. So to get that length, I chained 160 chains. That is a multiple of 3 plus 1 chain for the turning chains. So once you get your 160 chains, or whatever length that you want in your multiple of 3 plus 1, come on back and we'll start working on the shawl for Lil. Okay, now that we have our starting chain of 160, if you're doing the full size shawl, we're going to be starting 4th chain from hook. The loop on your hook does not count as a stitch. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this will be your starting chain. So you're going to yarn over your hook and insert your hook into that stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a double crochet. So we're going to yarn over again, go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So we're going to keep working the double crochet stitch, 1 in each chain, all the way down the chain. I will meet back up with you at the end of the chain. We're at the end of row 1. You should now have 158 double crochets. To start row 2, you're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. Take your stitch marker and you're going to place it in the second chain. So right in the middle in the second chain. That's going to be where you're going to put your last stitch in your next row. turn your work, and since this chain counts as a stitch, this stitch right here is already worked, so we're going to go to the next stitch to place our first double crochet. So yarn over and go into that stitch and work your double crochet. So technically this gives us 2 double crochets. Continue working 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way across the row. I will meet back up with you at the end of the row. Here we're at the end of row 2. This chain 3 right here that we skipped in the beginning, those 3 chains, that is a stitch. So we're going to go to that second chain, which is right here. And that's where we're going to put our double crochet. So we're going to go right into that chain and put our double crochet. Just like that, and that ends the row. So you should have 158 double crochet, just like the previous row. To start row 3, we're going to chain up 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. And again, we're going to mark that second chain as the first stitch of our round, or excuse me, of our row. Turn the work. And this is where we're going to start our V-stitches. Again, this counts as a stitch, so this one is already worked, this stitch is worked. We're going to skip this stitch, and we're going to start our V-stitches in this one right here. So we're going to put a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet into that stitch. And that is a double crochet V-stitch. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then the next stitch you're going to repeat that. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Again, skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in that third stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in the third stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Continue working the V-stitch all the way across the row, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. I'm at the end of row 3. We have 2 stitches left. We have our double crochet and our turning chain. We're going to skip that double crochet, and we're going to go in and put our last double crochet into that turning chain where we have it marked. So we can go ahead and take that stitch marker out, skip this one, and go into where that marked stitch was, and place a double crochet. So this is what your work should look like. You should have 106 double crochets at the end of this row. To start row 4, we're going to chain up 3 again. 1, 2, 3, and mark that second chain as our first stitch and turn the work. Now this row we're going to be doing double crochets into the chain 1 spaces. So this stitch right here is worked with our turning chain. So we're going to go right to the chain 1 space and we're going to place 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space. So it's 1, 2, and 3. We're going to skip over to the next chain space and repeat that. So 1, 2, and 3. Again, skip to the next chain 1 space and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And continue working this all the way to get to the end of the row, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 4. We just finished our last 3 double crochets in the chain 1 space. We now have just our turning chain, double crochet, in the turning chain to finish. So we're going to take that stitch marker out, and we're going to place the double crochet into the marked stitch. So this is what your work should be looking like. Now for row 4, you should have 158 double crochets. I'm going to start row 5. Row 5 is basically a repeat of row 2. So row 3, the double crochet V-stitch row. So we're going to be repeating row 3. So chain up 3, 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and put your stitch marker in that second chain and turn your work. Now since our turning chain counts as a stitch, we don't start here. We're going to skip the next stitch, and in the next one is where we're going to start our V-stitch, right here. Exactly like we did row 3. So we started our V-stitch there. We're going to chain 1 and put our next double crochet in there. So our V-stitches line up. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in that third stitch we do a V-stitch. That's double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, third stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet for our V-stitch. So continue working the V-stitches all the way across the row, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 5. We just did our last V-stitch. We're going to go ahead and take our stitch marker out and go ahead and put that last double crochet into that second chain of the turning chain. So your work should look like this, where your V-stitches are all nice and lined up. To start row 6, I'm going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, put our stitch marker into that second chain, and turn the work. Since our turning chain counts as a stitch, that first stitch is worked, we're going to put our 3 double crochets right into that chain 1 space. That's 1, 2, 3. Move to the next chain 1 space. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3. Again, move to the next chain 1 space and do 1, 2, and 3. Move to the next chain 1 space. 1, 2, and 3. Continue working your 3 double crochets into the chain 1 space, and I'll meet back up with you at the end of the row. We're at the end of row 6. We just finished our last double crochet set of 3. We have our turning chain right marked. We're going to take out that stitch marker and put our last double crochet in there to end our row. So this is what your work should be looking like. To complete your shawl, you want to repeat row 3 and 4 9 more times. Just work row 3, row 4, row 3, row 4, 9 more times, and that'll bring you to row 24. Once you get to row 24, we're going to put 2 rows of just straight double crochet, and that'll complete your shawl. So since I'm working just a little bit of a sample here, I will show you how to do the 2 rows of double crochet, because it's a little bit different than just working your sets of double crochets. So we'll just, for the sake of the tutorial here, we'll just pretend that this is row 24 and now we're starting row 25. So we're going to chain up 3, 1, 2, 3, place our stitch marker in the second chain and turn the work. This first stitch is already worked with our double crochet, with our chain 3, so we don't need to put a double crochet into this stitch right here. We're going to put it into that very first stitch. So this is our solid double crochet row. So we're going to put 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way across. So no more V-stitches once you hit row 25. You just put a solid row of double crochet. You're going to do that all the way across the row, and then you're going to chain 3 and go all the way across again. So you're going to do row 25 and row 26 is just straight double crochet. So that's all you would do to finish your row, to finish your shawl. Once you reach row 25, is 25 would be 25 and 26 is just straight double crochet. So let me just bring over the completed shawl just so you can get one more look at how it's supposed to look. So here we go. I'm going to bring up the camera here so you can get a good look at it. So this is sideways, by the way, because this is really the width. So you can take a good look at how that is supposed to look. See here what your top would look like. So if you've liked this tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell so you won't miss any of my tutorials. Thanks for watching, and happy crocheting! Bye-bye!